billionaire known for arrogance and racism discovers his young daughter secretly being taught by a homeless teenager in Central Park. The girl has nothing, no family, no money, no home. Yet what she gives his daughter is something even billions of dollars could not buy. What happens next is a story of kindness, redemption, and a transformation nobody could have predicted. 17-year-old Maya Johnson woke up hungry again. The shelter breakfast had run out before she made it through the line. Her stomach ached, but she clutched the one thing she still owned, a battered backpack with a notebook inside. Every day, she carried that notebook like treasure. Its pages were filled with lesson plans, ideas for teaching children how to read, games she invented to make words come alive, little poems scribbled in the margins. Once she had dreamed of becoming a teacher, but that dream died when her mother passed away, leaving her alone and homeless. Now she drifted between libraries and park benches, whispering to herself, "One day." Despite her circumstances, Maya had something remarkable. A gift for teaching, a gentleness that turned mistakes into victories. Children she met in shelters sometimes crowded around her, asking her to help with homework. She would smile and guide them, even when her own stomach growled louder than their pencils scratched. But outside that small circle, Maya was invisible. People walked past her without a glance. To them, she was just another homeless girl. Meanwhile, high above the city, Charles Whitmore lived in a different universe. Billionaire real estate mogul. Skyscrapers in his name. Politicians on speed dial. For decades, his reputation was carved in stone. Ruthless, untouchable, openly racist. In his world, money meant superiority, and anyone without it was beneath him. People didn't call him influential. They called him dangerous. But at home, Charles faced a battle his wealth couldn't win. His 10-year-old daughter, Emily, was bright, curious, and gentle, but she struggled with reading. Every private tutor failed. Each session ended in tears, and each time Charles grew colder. "You're just not trying hard enough," he would snap, blind to the truth. Emily didn't need pressure. She needed patience. She didn't need another tutor with a clipboard. She needed someone who believed in her. But Charles didn't understand that. He thought money could solve everything. And as Emily's self-esteem crumbled, so did his temper. One sunny afternoon in Central Park, Emily wandered away from her nanny, carrying a book she had once again failed to finish. She plopped onto a bench, frustrated. That's when she noticed a girl just a few years older than her, scribbling in a torn notebook. Curious, Emily asked, "What are you writing?" Startled, Maya looked up. "Just notes. Ways to help people read better." Emily's face lit up. "Can you help me? I can't read well, and no one makes it fun." Maya hesitated. She was dirty from sleeping on the streets. She had no business teaching the daughter of someone wealthy. But when she saw Emily's pleading eyes, something inside her softened. "All right," Maya said quietly. "Let's try." And with that single word, two worlds collided. The billionaire's daughter and the homeless girl with nothing but kindness to give. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Emily sat nervously on the park bench beside Maya, clutching her book with trembling fingers. Just try the first line, Maya said gently, her voice calm in a way Emily had never heard from a tutor before. Emily hesitated, then began to read. Her voice wavered. She stumbled over words, face flushing red. Normally, this was the point when adults sighed, corrected her harshly, or looked away in disappointment. But Maya didn't flinch. She leaned in and smiled. Take your time. You've got this. For simple words. And for Emily, everything shifted. For the first time, she felt safe to keep going. When she finally made it through a full sentence, Maya clapped softly, her eyes shining. See? I told you. Emily's eyes widened. No one had ever celebrated her effort before, only her mistakes. And that tiny burst of encouragement planted something new inside her. Confidence. Day after day, Emily found herself drifting back to that same bench in Central Park. She pretended to chase pigeons or look at flowers just to slip away from her nanny. And there was Maya, always with her battered notebook, always ready to help. Maya made reading feel different. She turned words into little games, stories into adventures, mistakes into jokes. For Emily, lessons no longer meant tears. They meant laughter. One afternoon, after an especially fun lesson where Maya taught Emily to turn her mistakes into a silly story, Emily noticed the worn holes in Maya's shoes and the way she pressed her hand to her empty stomach. Without a word, Emily dug into her backpack and pulled out a shiny red apple. She held it out shyly. You should eat too, she whispered. Maya froze. She had been given scraps before, but this was different. It wasn't pity. It was kindness from a child who wanted to share. Her throat tightened as she took the apple. Thank you, Emily. You don't know how much this means. Then, almost instinctively, she tore a page from her notebook. On it was the first word Emily had ever read correctly during their lessons. She folded it carefully and handed it back. Keep this. Proof that you can. Emily's eyes sparkled. One act of kindness had been returned with another. And in that quiet exchange, an apple for a word, a bond of trust was sealed. As their lessons continued, Emily began sharing more than just reading struggles. My tutors don't like me, she admitted one afternoon. They act like I'm broken. Daddy says I'm not trying hard enough. Maya listened, really listened. You're not broken. You just need someone to believe in you. Emily's lip quivered. Like you do. Exactly like I do. It was the first time Emily truly felt seen. But while the park became their secret sanctuary, shadows loomed. Charles Whitmore was no fool. He noticed the sudden spark in his daughter's eyes, the way she carried books proudly, the confidence creeping into her voice. Something or someone was behind this transformation, and Charles was determined to find out. For weeks, Emily's world began to change. She no longer dreaded books. She carried them like treasures. She no longer hid in shame. She laughed at her mistakes because Maya taught her that stumbling was part of learning. Maya's lessons weren't like the rigid drills of expensive tutors. She made stories come alive. She turned reading into scavenger hunts, words into puzzles, and victories into little celebrations. Every sentence Emily read felt like a mountain climbed. But what mattered most wasn't the progress, it was the friendship. Emily confided in Maya about her loneliness, about how her father seemed proud of his skyscrapers but never proud of her. Maya listened with full attention, offering comfort instead of criticism. And Maya, in turn, began opening up too. She told Emily about her mother, about the nights in the shelter, about the notebook of lesson plans she guarded like gold. "Why do you still write lessons if you don't have students?" Emily asked one day. Maya smiled faintly. "Because hope is a habit. And maybe one day, someone will need them." Emily squeezed her hand. "I need them." For Maya, those 3 words were more precious than food. For the first time in months, she felt seen not as a homeless girl, but as a teacher. But secrets never stay hidden forever. One crisp afternoon, Charles Whitmore dismissed his driver and walked into Central Park. His curiosity had been gnawing at him. His daughter's sudden transformation demanded answers. And then he saw it. Emily, sitting on a bench, reading aloud, her voice steady, her eyes glowing with confidence. And beside her, a homeless black teenager guiding her with gentle patience. For one brief moment, Charles felt pride in his daughter's progress. But then his old prejudices surged like a storm. His jaw tightened. His voice thundered. "Emily!" The peaceful air shattered. Emily dropped her book, eyes wide with fear. Maya froze. Charles strode forward and grabbed his daughter's hand. "What are you doing with her?" His words dripped with venom. Emily's eyes welled with tears. "Daddy, please. She's helping me. I can read because of her." "You will never see this girl again," Charles snapped. But Emily's next words cut through him like a blade. "She listens to me, Daddy. She believes in me." For the first time in years, Charles was speechless. That night, Maya sat alone on her bench, shaken. She had been insulted before. She had been ignored, mocked, pushed aside. But somehow this was worse, because this time, she felt she was losing Emily too. "Maybe he's right," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I don't belong in her world." Her notebook trembled in her hands. For the first time, she thought of tearing its pages out, of giving up the dream entirely. Meanwhile, back at the Whitmore penthouse, Emily sobbed into her pillow. "She's not like the others, Daddy," she pleaded. "She believes in me. Please don't take her away." Charles said nothing, but the image of Maya, homeless, yet teaching with a patience none of his tutors had ever shown, haunted him. For the first time, the mighty Charles Whitmore felt unsure. Have you ever had to overcome obstacles to help someone you cared about? What challenges did you face? Share your experience below. I read every comment. That night, Charles Whitmore sat alone in his penthouse office, staring out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. He had billion-dollar deals waiting on his desk, but he couldn't focus. All he could hear were Emily's words echoing in his mind. "She listens to me. She believes in me." Belief. That was the one thing he hadn't been able to buy for his daughter. The next morning, Charles did something unthinkable for a man of his pride. He returned to Central Park, no driver, no bodyguards, no entourage. Just him. Maya was there, sitting with her notebook, her eyes wary. When she saw him, her first instinct was to run. But Charles raised a hand. I need to speak with you," he said, the arrogance stripped from his tone. Maya braced for insults, for orders to stay away. Instead, Charles said something that stunned them both. "Teach her, please." Maya blinked, unable to believe her ears. "You want me to keep teaching Emily?" He nodded stiffly. "She's learning with you, and that matters." It was the first crack in his armor. From that day on, Charles watched, at first from a distance, then closer, as Maya continued her lessons. He saw his daughter's eyes light up with each victory, saw the laughter return to her face, and something in him began to shift. But New York wasn't blind. Paparazzi captured Charles sitting on a park bench beside Maya. Within days, headlines blared. Racist billionaire's daughter taught by homeless black teen. Whitmore hypocrite. Seen with black girl despite history of prejudice. Protesters gathered outside his skyscraper headquarters. Investors whispered about pulling their money. Advisors begged him, "Cut ties immediately. This will destroy your empire." But every night at home, Charles saw something his boardroom couldn't see. He saw Emily blossoming. He saw her proudly read books cover to cover. He saw her smile in ways he hadn't witnessed in years. And in those moments he knew this was worth more than money. At a tense board meeting, surrounded by stone-faced executives demanding he distance the family from the girl, Charles rose from his chair. "Gentlemen," he said, voice calm but firm, "I've been wrong my entire life. I thought power meant control. I thought money meant respect. But my daughter learned to read because of a girl you call worthless. She's not worthless. She's extraordinary. And I won't turn my back on her." The room fell silent. For the first time, Charles was no longer speaking like a ruthless mogul. He was speaking like a father. The very next morning, he did the unthinkable. He called a press conference. Cameras flashed as he walked to the podium with Emily by his side, and Maya, clutching her notebook, on the other. "I've been known for many things," Charles began, "but compassion hasn't been one of them. That changes today. This young woman, Maya Johnson, has done for my daughter what the finest schools and tutors could not. She gave her confidence. She gave her hope. And in doing so, she reminded me that every human being has value." The press erupted. For once, the story wasn't about his prejudice, it was about his transformation. But Charles didn't stop there. He announced a nationwide initiative: scholarships for underprivileged youth, shelters for the homeless, funding for grassroots education programs led by people like Maya. "Racism has no place in the future we're building," Charles declared, "and I will use my resources not to divide, but to heal." The world gasped. The billionaire once known for cruelty was now championing compassion. For Maya, the change was life-altering. With Charles's support, she finally had a home. She enrolled in college, determined to pursue her dream of teaching. Yet despite her new opportunities, she never stopped visiting Emily. Their bond had grown into something deeper than lessons, it was family. One evening, Emily hugged her tightly and whispered, "You didn't just teach me to read. You taught Daddy to change." Maya smiled through tears. "No, Emily, you changed him. Your kindness, your belief in me. It made him listen." Months later, at the grand opening of a new community learning center funded by Charles's initiative, Maya stood at the front of a classroom as a student teacher. Children gathered around her, wide-eyed, as she guided them with the same patience she had once given Emily. A little boy finished his first full sentence and grinned. "Thank you, Miss Maya." In the back of the room, Charles watched silently, his chest tight with a feeling he had never known: peace. And Emily, holding her book proudly, whispered to her father, "See? I told you she could teach." Sometimes the smallest act of kindness shatters the strongest walls of prejudice, and changes not just one life, but the world. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment in the comments. Months passed, and life looked nothing like it once had. Maya was no longer the invisible girl drifting between shelters. With a safe place to live and a scholarship in her name, She was now a college student studying education, walking across campus with that same battered notebook, its pages now filled with real lesson plans for her future classroom. But she never forgot where it all began. Every week, she visited Emily, who had transformed into a confident reader, proudly standing at the front of her class to share her favorite stories aloud. Charles Whitmore, once known as a ruthless billionaire, had become something else entirely, an unlikely advocate for compassion. His initiative funded dozens of community learning centers across the country. Homeless shelters gained resources, scholarships were awarded, and children like Emily, once written off, found new hope. Headlines no longer called him dangerous. They called him changed. And Emily? She carried more than just books now. She carried belief in herself. This story isn't just about a billionaire, a daughter, or a homeless girl. It's about how kindness, simple, quiet, ordinary kindness, has the power to undo years of prejudice and rewrite entire lives. It's about how one apple shared, one word celebrated, one act of listening can ripple outward until the world itself shifts. Because at the heart of it, we all crave the same thing: to be seen, to be believed in, to know we matter. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. And most importantly, don't just watch, act. Look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Share your commitment in the comments below. You never know who might read it and be inspired to do the same. Thank you for watching. And remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.